Man, summer is in full force, which I don't mind the heat at all. It's just sometimes indoors it gets a little bit too much. But outside I don't mind being hot. But inside it's like... Anyway, so Netflix just seems to rotate things in and out. And guess what's on Netflix right now? Total Recall. Am I smelling a simul watch on stream? I think so. This right here is a Super NT. I've talked about this many times before on the vlog, but it is a hardware emulated Super Nintendo, which means for all intents and purposes, it functions exactly like a Super Nintendo, but it has HD output and you can put it on an HD TV. This right here is an 8-bit DOE retro receiver. Plug it in here. They recently released a firmware update that let you use the official Nintendo Switch Super Nintendo wireless controllers. And as you can see, I've got quite a bit of space between the TV and the couch. And I've got plenty of wireless controller solutions that I could use, but there is nothing like the original Super Nintendo controller, especially for 2D games. Something about having a flat controller that's just like, you know, it's like this, and there's not like any things sticking out that you hold on to. It feels right. It feels right for moving left and right on the screen. I don't know if that's just experience or if that's something else to it. Anyways, the Super NT is now gonna have a spot under the entertainment center, although it doesn't really match anything. That's okay, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Okay, I just finished the intro for the episode, which can double as a trailer. Those things are like 30 seconds long, but they usually take like 3 or 4 hours to do. Consequently, when we save them for the end of the project, I'm always like, oh man, I don't want to do that. But this time I was like, yo. It's important, A. B, do it like anything else you do. Sit with it, don't care how long it takes. Even if it's only 30 seconds, don't think about the fact that it takes an inordinate amount of time to get it edited. Just make something creative and good that you're happy with, and everybody's gonna be happy. Okay, it's time for a run and to go eat. All right, now it's time for that ring fit, y'all. Ring fit adventure. Okay, that was a workout, y'all. The best part about Ring Fit is that it's slightly different every day. So I feel like it always keeps my body like on my toes. Not really literally. So past me is still screwing over future me on a regular basis, and every time I have to clean my bean pot, man. Anyways, there was something I was thinking about. Can you actually give advice to somebody else that is meaningful and helpful? The answer is obviously yes, but people often ask me what camera they should get. And on the surface, it seems like that should be a fairly easy question to answer. But even when I give my recommendations, there's all these caveats in my head. I'm like, well, they could use this, but there's a significant downside over here, and they could use that, and then maybe they shouldn't even be looking at these cameras, they should be looking at something else. And sometimes people will give you answers like, it depends, and I have like some weird childhood trauma associated with that, where that really bothers me when people say that. I'm like, just give an answer. But it's really true, it does depend on a lot of things. This right here is my favorite camera, this is the GH5, but it's only my favorite camera because it fits the way that I work the best. Like if I'm only doing indoor video or indoor shooting, the camera I'm currently using would be the one that I would recommend, because indoors it's just easier with this camera. It's like you got a nice full frame. See, that's the thing, when I give a recommendation for something, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. what are the things that that person prioritizes? So I actually recommended a very similar camera to this to one of my friends who was looking for a camera. And I think I made the right decision because I know the type of stuff that he wants to shoot, and I know the situations he's gonna be shooting, and I actually kind of know his shooting style because I shot a video for him, and I'm imagining if he's shooting a video, he's probably gonna shoot roughly the same way that he would direct a video. So anyway, I think it's fairly obvious and fairly well known that experience is the best teacher, but it's just slightly more than that because lots of times you literally can't tell somebody something unless they've experienced it. Here's a random example, okay? When we shot the Mammoth Cave episode, we used something called a lavalier mic. Okay, it's a little microphone that looks like this. You can seal it underneath your clothing like this with a little sticker, and then you plug it into a little recorder or a transmitter like this. Now, the thing with microphones is that they sound worse when you're far away from the microphone. The solution is not to get a more expensive microphone. It's to just get closer to the microphone. So when we were filming that first canoe episode in Mammoth Cave, and I was like, okay, we'll all have our own recorders and we'll record lav mics and then we'll sync it afterwards in post-production. So we did it. Afterwards, when editing, it took significantly longer to edit, but even more than that, there was lots of clips where we forgot to press record on the lavalier mic, period. So then we just had no audio. Anyways, we used lavalier mics a couple times after that. And then finally I was just like, you know what? It is not worth trying to get a shot of somebody far away with their audio when you could just do a different shot where you get closer to the camera and you talk. But if you had told me that before I had all this experience with the lavalier mic and knew the pain of losing audio, having to sync it up in post. Like if a teacher had told me, just don't use lavalier mics, you're gonna forget to record and then you're gonna not have any audio. I would have said, no, maybe you would forget, but I wouldn't forget. But having had the experience myself, I can make a really clear decision and say, yo, I know the pros and cons of using this. And I know that the pros of using lavalier mics, at least with my current knowledge, will just never outweigh the cons of using them. But nobody could have taught me that. I just had to experience and fail on my own to realize that it was something that I can't deal with. That being said, there's definitely times where advice is just like, you need to listen to that advice because somebody's already gone through the pain for you. And you can just listen and say, okay, yeah, I got it. I'll never forget this. When I was a kid, I was probably like 8. We had a dry erase board. Okay, so then I think my brother was drawing on the dry erase and he didn't know that this was a permanent marker. So normally dry erase, you just go like that, right? He wrote on this with a permanent marker. And then so we couldn't erase it and then we had to get some nail polish remover and removed it. But I came in and I was like, no, man, all you gotta do is wipe it off. It's just a dry erase marker, man. You just go like this. And then I saw that it didn't work. Even though everybody had just told me it doesn't work. I still didn't believe them and had to do it myself. So on the one hand, I need some nail polish remover now. So on the one hand, you could look at that and be like, oh, Robby, good for you for not acquiescing to authority and testing it out yourself. But on the other hand, there is no reason to repeat the pain. You know, it's like, it's okay to listen to people who are smarter than you, older than you, more knowledgeable than you, who are experts. It's not only okay, it's the whole point of being human and having each other to cover each other's bases. And I mean, I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else, but I always assume that I'm right. But it's a really nice thing when you can step outside of that and be like, oh, okay, when somebody challenges what I think is right, or what I have thought to be true, instead of immediately defending it, just being like, oh, let's consider the possibility. Let's consider the possibility that they're right. We can test it to be sure. I mean, that's a really easy test. You can just wipe it off and see. But not to come in and be like, oh, you guys are idiots. It's just a dry erase marker, just wipe it off. So one final point to wrap it all up. I've talked before how I don't like unsolicited advice. And I still stand by that because unless it's something like dangerous where somebody could die or get hurt, it's way better to make a mistake and learn from the mistake rather than having somebody force their way onto you, even if it's right and you would eventually come to that conclusion. A, because you're just gonna be resentful, and B, making mistakes is a way better teacher than somebody else. Nobody can ever teach you the way your mistakes can. The mistakes, you make a mistake, you're like, oh man, I'm not doing that again. Maybe sometimes to your detriment. You become so gun shy from preventing mistakes like that again that you can't experiment and be open and free. Anyways, with all that being said, I got some Crystal Chronicles posters in the garage. I gotta get those out. Now, I would imagine that a lot of you don't know what this game is all about. This is actually a really interesting game because in a lot of ways, this is the inspiration for Adventure Archives. First of all, the name is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. In Crystal Chronicles and Final Fantasy, those alliteration, that's where the name Adventure Archives came from. We would always make stuff with alliteration in it, and Adventure Archives was just one of those things. But the other thing is it's a 4-player cooperative RPG where there's 4 characters and you have to play cooperatively. Like, you can cast spells, and if 2 people cast spells at the same time, like you have to move your little cursors on top of each other, instead of fire, it's Fyra, and then if 3 people do it, it's Fyraga. The remaster of this game is coming out on August 23rd or something. I was like, dude, I gotta put these back up. I'm gonna put it right there. Yeah, right there. Oh! Oh yeah! Okay, so that will do it for today's vlog. Thank you very much for watching. See you tomorrow. Oh, this is happening too. Oh, come on, man. It's gonna be easier, blah, blah, blah. Where was I going with this? What was I gonna say? Oh, that's wrong direction. Off. Needs to be off.